the officials, they provided information.
Are we saying that the President, Commander-in-Chief, did not appreciate correctly the intelligence information provided by the Philippine National Police? That's a very dangerous statement, Mr. President.
Mr. President, Your Honor, it's not the Commander-in-Chief, but probably it's the commanders on the ground, no, that failed to appreciate the information given by the intelligence assets and the intelligence operatives. That's why that resulted to the failure, somewhat the failure of intelligence because of the appreciation of the ground commanders.
So, may kasalanan po yung mga ground commanders?
Mr. President, in a way, because they fail to appreciate the information given.
Sila pa rin po ba ang recipients nitong mga intelligence reports? Because then there will be continuous failure to appreciate this intelligence information. Who are these field commanders who fail to appreciate the intel reports?
Actually, Mr. President, there was already intelligence report that Hapilon and the Maute Group are planning something. That was the reason that the PNP and the AFP operatives launched a raid, no, which subsequently resulted in the now infamous Marawi siege. No, that's why in a way the PNP and AFP knew already. So that's why. But the only thing that they did not really expect was the number of probably the number of terrorists that they were up against.
Mr. President, if indeed if PNP knew of this, the AFP knew of this, was this information relayed to the President or not?
Mr. President, they also that this ISIS Maute terrorist group likewise launched their attack during the time that there was a religious activity, Muslim religion, tabligh, called tabligh. So there were it was normal to see foreign Muslims in the area during those times.
Was the chief PNP informed of this intelligence information?
Mr. President, according to the chief PNP, that he received intelligence report about Hapilon and his group in Marawi already, but what they didn't know was when they will attack. So they were already reports of the sightings of Hapilon and Maute during that time. And,
correct me if I'm wrong, but was the chief PNP in the country when the siege took place?
Mr. President, the chief PNP was at the time with the president in Russia.
With the president in Russia. Wala naman sigurong, yeah. So, notwithstanding, so the time when there was intelligence information of the, and the chief PNP knew already of Hapilon et al., and only the question of timing was not clear, we were so confident that first, we did not advise the president. Number two, we pushed through with our trip to Russia. Is that a correct statement?
Mr. President, according to the chief PNP, he had the timetable of the Maute group. If it had been followed, it would have been more disastrous, no? It would have been a bigger disaster for everybody. But nonetheless, they were able to position already. The PNP and AFP had a hard time because they were already prepositioned and they were able to take the higher ground, and they were able to take the strategic positions. And as you all you know, Mr. President, it is really difficult in urban warfare if the enemy is already prepositioned in the higher ground. That also became a factor on why this Marawi siege took longer than expected to be resolved, Mr. President.
So, would the gentleman sponsor concede that to a certain degree there was failure of intelligence insofar as the Marawi episode is concerned? Maybe not total failure of intelligence, but a certain degree of failure can be attributed to the episode in Marawi, which resulted in the deaths of our PNP personnel, our AFP personnel, and civilians.
Mr. President, there was information, there was intelligence reports, but I would say that there was failure in the appreciation of this information, which led to the deadly Marawi siege, Mr. President.
The very fine distinction, Mr. President, is a little difficult to appreciate. Maybe I should get this, the representation should get more exposure to the matter of intelligence gathering, utilization, appreciation, in order to be able to appreciate and understand where the failure of intelligence took place. In any case, Mr. President, let me thank the gentleman for the answers that given in the course of this period of interpretation. We thank him for considering realigning certain portions of the PNP funds for housing of the PNP personnel. So with that, we thank the gentleman sponsor for yielding the floor to this representative. Thank you very much.
Likewise, Mr. President, I'd like to thank the Minority Leader for his support for the housing, for the PNP and the AFP and other personnel, which is really needed. So I'd like to thank the Minority Leader for his concern.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Senator.
President. May the Majority Leader be recognized.
The able Majority Floor Leader, Senator Tito Soto, is now recognized.
I'll try to be as brief as possible, Mr. President, but there are certain major concerns that have been brought to my attention, so I'd like to call the attention of the distinguished sponsor so that we may perhaps look into it as far as the budget of the PNP, the PJMP are concerned. And this is somehow, well, this somehow can be related to the budget that was mentioned by the Minority Leader. First, the Minority Leader was able to extract from the sponsor the total budget for the Oplan double barrel, which was used last year at around 900 million. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor, Mr. President, that's correct. 900 million was allotted for Oplan double barrel for,
Yes,
for 2018.
For this year, it will be the same amount.
Yes, Mr. President, that's the same amount.
And with the PIDEA as lead and no longer the PNP, what happens to the 900 million budget, Mr. President?
Mr. President, Your Honor, as earlier discussed, no, because of the clear and present danger that we are facing right now, like the threat of terrorism and as evidenced by the Marawi siege, the PNP is proposing that the majority of the 900 million, or a part of it, would be realigned for counter-terrorism improvement, for the improvement of the operations, and acquisition of equipment, surveillance equipment, and weapons and other things, no, for counter-terrorism, Mr. President.
Do you think we can perhaps pinch away a few million for the budget of the Internal Affairs Service, Mr. President, of the PNP. I think it is one of the most forgotten division or bureau in the department. Parang laging api yung IAS eh. I heard that pag nag-iimbestiga IAS, ang sinasakyan nila sa sasakyan, yung iniimbestigahan nila. Dahil niwala sila sa sasakyan. At pinamimirienda sila nung iniimbestigahan nila.
Mr. President, that's true. Tama ho kayo, no? That IAS is medyo para hong nakakalimutan, and in fact there is an additional fund for next year, but it's only 10 million pesos, no? So it's very, very minimal. So we really have to strengthen as well the intelligence, the Internal Affairs Service of the PNP for the cleansing of ranks of our men in uniform, Mr. President.
Right. Yes, we were browsing through the necessary budget needed for IAS to be perhaps at least very meaningful with its mandate. And perhaps this would be able to resolve some of the issues on EJKs because of the investigation that can be conducted by IAS. So would you say that during the period of amendment, the figure that we're looking at is to add an additional 60 million to the IAS for capital outlay, Mr. President?
Yes, Mr. President, that would certainly be welcome if it will improve, of course, if it will improve and help in the cleansing of ranks of the PNP personnel. And likewise, to give the Majority Leader an idea, in 2015, the total budget of IAS is 77.6 million. 2016, 79.9 million. In 2017, it's 82.3 million. So talagang there's an increase, but it's really very minimal.
So an additional 60 would perhaps be able to resolve some of these problems, Mr. President?
Well, definitely, Mr. President, our Majority Leader, because that will be almost doubling the current budget of the IAS.
Yes, because we did some pencil pushing, and we feel that a regional increase to that certain amount would be able to resolve some of the issues.
Yes, that will help them improve their operations, as you mentioned, Mr. President, the majority mentioned that even the vehicles, no?
Mr. President, the former mayor of Olongapo wants to interject.
With the permission of my good friend Senator Soto and of course our good friend Senator Harris,
Senator Gordon is recognized. Yeah.
we'll be discussing an increase or decrease of the budget. But isn't the problem with IAS its ability to move faster? That it is a tendency to have to be bureaucratic, or sometimes a tendency to protect some of our kabaro in the PNP. You need firm and fair people in the IAS to be able to do it, and when they do it, it will cleanse the police forces of the bad eggs. You know, I think this is very basic, even in PMA or any other organization. Hindi budget. Kung meron tayong tao dun sa IAS na talagang pag-aaralan at mabilis ang aksyon, magagawa at magagawa. It's not really a question of the budget, but the determination to pass through all the cases with facility, with dispatch, with firmness and fairness. That's just my 2 cents worth, Your Honor.
Yes, but again, we agree, we concur definitely, but if they don't have money to spend...
Well, you know, Your Honor, if they do their jobs, I'm sure everybody is going to provide more money for them, but they have to show some progress. Because, as you all know, we investigated all these cases. IAS drags its feet sometimes for 3 years on simple cases. Yun ang problema ho eh. Kung mabilis sila, our people will be happier with the police, quick action will be undertaken, and the police will be healthier. We are all supporters of the police. I'm a law and order mayor. I'd like to say that in no uncertain terms, but we really have to work with dispatch on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator
We
Gordon.
concur, Mr. President.
With the indulgence of my colleague, Senator Lacson, we recognize
the Majority Leader and the sponsor. I already augmented IAS with another 70 million pesos. And the 900 million budget for double barrel, which necessarily will be removed from the PNP budget, I intend to realign it. I already submitted this to the Finance Committee Chair. I intend to realign it to augment the MOE of the PNP simply because circa 2012 pa yung kanilang MOE per capita cost, no? Per personnel per month. 1,000 pesos is only good in 2012. Right now, ang standard, ang ideal na MOE per capita cost per personnel per month per unit should be 1,700. And if I will augment, with the approval of our colleagues for that matter, if I will augment it with the 900 million, it will be raised to the level of 1,413. So magkakaroon ng additional 413 pesos per capita cost per personnel per month per unit. So if our distinguished colleagues on the floor are amenable to that proposal, I will push through with that amendment at the proper time.
All right, Mr. President, we concur. We thank the two gentlemen for that information. May we recognize the minority leader, Mr. President?
Yes, Senate Minority Leaders are recognized.
Just on the point of the 900 million, we will submit our proposed amendment and realign this for housing, and we leave it to the body, the sponsor of the budget, and the Senate, how to handle this realignment. Because one thing I think there is no disagreement, that since the PNP is no longer the lead agency nor would have anything to do with the illegal drug campaign, then this 900 million is no longer necessary in that object as an object of expense and can be realigned. As we said, where it will be realigned, we have proposed it to be in the housing. The gentleman, former PNP chief, has proposed it to be in MOE. We submit it on the floor at the appropriate time for decision, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator
Right.
Villar.
Thank you, Mr. President. In that case, let me move on to another
Please proceed.
other detail in the PNP budget. May I know if there is such thing as a court duty allowance that is being given to the PNP personnel?
Mr. President, Mr. Majority Leader, that's already included in the MOE,
Not,
court duty allowance.
it's not. How much
Mr.
is
President, it's part of the per capita expenditure. The court expenses.
then how much would that be for 2018 and how much was it for 2017? You see, Mr. President, I'm asking because ito yung mga minute details ng budget ng PNP na parang paper budget eh. Because when you talk to the ordinary police operative, who is the true and genuine anti-drug warrior, who is in the forefront or the front line, serving warrants, conducting bypass operations, the one who goes to the prosecutor's office for inquest, preliminary investigation, court hearings, when they go to court, they give food for his prisoner, he buys his own gasoline, he pays for his own fares, waits for his case to be called while smiling through his stomach, grumbling. Ano? Kung minsan paper budget hindi naman nakakarating dun sa babae. So, paano natin ma-i-ensure na yung court duty allowance ay makakarating dun sa mga operatives talaga?
Mr. President, that is correct. The things that the majority leader is pointing out, it's really a dilemma, no? Because, for example, if you have 100 personnel, that's about 100,000 peso fund. If you would base it to the per capita, kung meron hong kaso, ay yung hepe na po ang bahala, no? Na bubunot dun out of that 100,000. No? So doon din po niya kukunin yon sa pondong yon. So yun po talaga ang ano. And the increase that is being proposed that Senator Lacson would help a lot for the the court expenses of the different PNP personnel.
So there is no precise line in their budget that would say court duty allowance?
None, Mr. President. Unfortunately, there's none. It's included in the MOE and doon po sa per capita ay kasama na
Can
po.
we just be then given an assurance by the leadership of the Philippine National Police and the NAPOLCOM that this will be done
Yes, Mr. President.
and monitored closely? No?
Yes, Mr. President.
All right. Moving on. Up to now, Mr. President, there is no nationwide institutional program on the implementation and adoption of a preventive education program on illegal drugs. As most of you know already, and I have been sounding like a broken record, the war against drugs can only be won if you are relentless in your enforcement, in your prosecution, in your rehabilitation, and prevention. Those four major concerns, all right? As far as prevention is concerned, there is much to be desired. And there is this DARE program, Drug Abuse Resistance Education Program, that has been very successful in some parts of the country where it has been used. And now in the Manila, in the city of your father, they are doing it. And it is very successful. So, can't we have a nationwide institutional program to be adopted by the Philippine National Police? I say the Philippine National Police because this was disseminated from the Los Angeles Police Department. They came up with a DARE program that was very successful in LA. Now, we tried it in General Santos. The former city director of General Santos, then Chief Superintendent Train, Cedric Train, I don't know where he is now assigned, no? He is a lawyer. The implementation of the program was very successful, Mr. President. The technique is to have a policeman who is very well versed on illegal drugs, trained program of DARE, that goes to the classroom of grade 6 students once a week for, say, 2 months. So a program of about 8 weeks. He goes there and tells the grade 6 students about the ills of illegal drugs and why they should not touch it and what will happen to their future and so on. You know? Nagkikwento sila. Ganun yung DARE program eh. Grade 6 because before they reach the age of their teens, alam na nila yung ano yung masama. Alam na nilang masama itong droga, masisira ang future ko rito. So they will no longer be curious. This is a very effective program, Mr. President, because, as I said, in General Santos, we were able to produce then DARE graduates, and up to now, very, very few, if ever there is, turned out as drug addicts in this group, no? So perhaps the Philippine National Police can make a nationwide institutional program on the implementation and the adoption of the DARE program. If you need to coordinate, you can coordinate with the Department of Education. What do you say to this, Mr. Sponsor?
Mr. President, Mr. Minority Leader is correct, no? That the DARE program is very successful, and as of the moment, the Philippine National Police is conducting community relations activities. No? Hindi lang ho lahat nakapangalan sa DARE, but there are similar programs that they are conducting at present. And likewise, under the DILG's Master-Masid program, it is also part of the program. One of those components is the advocacies, and that is part, a similar program like there is part of the Masa Masid program. But you are correct, Mr. Mentor Leader, Mr. President, that indeed the DARE program was very successful, and we are hoping that the PNP will be able to continue with this program as it has been effective in drug prevention.
In a nationwide scale, Mr. President. Maybe Senator
Yes,
Gordon
with
is
the
seeking the
indulgence
floor.
of our colleagues, may we recognize Senator Gordon?
Mr. President, far be it from me to keep on interjecting, but I would like to be associated with the remarks of my good friend, the Majority Floor Leader, and the sponsor, and somehow the policeman here. When I was mayor of Olongapo, we had the Barangay Anti-Narcotics Group. We focused on the studentry in school, and out of school. And the idea was to perpetrate upon their minds the idea that when they go to school, they have taken over somebody's right to go to school, and therefore they must maximize their time in school rather than take drugs. And if they take drugs, they must be kicked out right away, no rehabilitation, because somebody lost his position because he took the place in public school. It was very effective. Also, we also had people who were are whistleblowers in the streets. Pumuporma pa lang yung mga drug pushers, yung mga marijuana pa nung araw, hanggang sa mga nightclub, yung mga natitinda ng Red Devil at Seconal, we were able to enhance this because even the bar managers were told that if we found drugs in their area and they do not report it, and the vendor outside the clubs did not report it, they would be taken out of their position. And it was so remarkable, nawala ang drugs sa Olongapo for a while, for a long time. And to my mind, the best thing that I heard this afternoon was your remark about prevention. Because the key is you cannot give them space. The public and the leaders of the community must be able to grab that space that the drug pushers are going to try to penetrate our young. And I think we should really put a budget on this measure in terms of advertising and creating the necessary recognition of volunteers in this program, even contests on schools and communities, so that they will know that there is a cogent effort to try and fight drugs. You cannot fight drugs by killing the pushers alone. You have to fight it from the community level, and that is what I would recommend. If the gentleman would be willing to have an amendment to this, I think we should put in more money, Your Honor, on the prevention aspect.
Yes, Your Honor, Mr. President, that will be most welcome. And as of the moment, also for the information of the gentleman, that there's a program called Police Ko, Teacher Ko. It's an ongoing anti-drug advocacy campaign by the Philippine National Police. It's a school-based anti-drug advocacy campaign.
But that is a program, Your Honor, that only they know. It is not enough to be good. You have to let the public know it's good and it is working so that they will buy in. Eh kung tayo-tayo lang nagkakaalaman, nananalo tayo lang, at hindi kasama yung publiko, eh talagang hindi maintindihan ng tao yan. So it's important, Your Honor, that we provide the wherewithal so that the public will know. And just a final word, if I may, samantalayan ko na po ito. Hindi po ako naniniwala na yung PIDEA lang kaya nilang sawatain itong drugs. Because ilan lang ang tao niyan, 2,000 lang ata, o 3,000, lagay niya na 3,000 ba? 1,500. It's very unfair to the PIDEA, although not all of them are angels, but very unfair for them to have the responsibility. Although if they want to, they can do it. But to my mind, every law enforcer has that duty to coordinate with PIDEA when there are drugs, and they will need. I was told kanina that even during the time of Police Superintendent, Chief Superintendent Kapdak, 80% of the arrests were done by the PNP along the line. Kaya doon naniniwala na one size will fit all in case of PIDEA. You really need the police, you need the Parents Teachers Association, you need the community, and you have a program called Prevent, and make sure you enforce. Like I said, you can have contests among the schools, among the barangays, on instead of saying, oh, this is infested, just to say it, you're just fixing the blame. But you need to fix the problem, as I've said here so many times, by creating that program that the gentleman, the majority floor leader has said, and I agree with him 100,000%. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Senator Gordon. And if the chair, if you would allow the chair also to interject, this representation filed a bill, Senate Bill number 1149, for this preventive program. And likewise, let me associate this representation to the statements made by our majority floor leader and Senator Gordon. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. President, I'm glad Senator Gordon made mention of the day assignment now. Perhaps later, when we take up the budget of the BDA, I can bring this particular issue again later on. The relationship between BDA and the PNP and the war on drugs. We will take it up later. Let me now move on to another concern. And this is, of course, somehow parochial, but I beg your indulgence because I just want to know what happened to the 20-month unpaid pension differential of the 17 PNP retirees and 65,000 survivors, members of the Foundation for Retired Quezon City's Pride. Some retirees have already died waiting for the action of the DILG, the DBM, and the PNP. Ano na ba ang balita rito?
Mr. President, with the issue that you are asking, the problem is that the DBM approved only for the succeeding years. No? It was not retroactive. So the PNP is now requesting for the DBM to augment the fund so that and because the amount needed, Mr. President, is about 3.8 billion to cover all the pension arrears, Mr. President. That's about 26 months, so that's about 3.8 billion, Mr. President. $3.8 billion to cover the pension arrears.
I'm awed at the figures involved, Mr. President. I am speechless. Perhaps we can look at it and inform them of the answer of the sponsor. All right. May I move on to the BJMP, Mr. President? Some of the attached agencies of the DILG. What is the current congestion rate of the jails under the jurisdiction of the BJMP?
Mr. President, I have with me here 18 regions. No? Just NCR, for example, is 673%. And the total nationwide average is about 623%, Mr. President.
Congestion rate yan.
Yes, Mr. President.
The 2016 report says that it was only 511% congestion rate. Ngayon, 623. And according to the finance report, there will be 76,000 more inmates for 2018. And definitely this will add to the current congestion of the jails. Now, is it correct to say that I found 69 jail buildings that you plan to construct? Tama ba ito? In certain regions?
Yes, Mr. President. And likewise, you are correct that 2016, the congestion rate is only 511%. And for 2017, it increased to 623% because of the war against drugs, Your Honor. That's the primary reason for the increase to 623%, Mr. President.
So the 69 jail buildings that they are planning to construct, we can be assured that there will be a decrease in the congestion rate for 2018. Ganun ba yun?
Mr. President, Mr. Majority Leader, according to the BJP head, that once completed, the 69 jail buildings, the 633% will be reduced to about 200% congestion rate, Mr. President. 200. About 200 plus, Mr. President.
And are there any plans for increase in the next year or two?
Yes, Mr. President, after the 69 jail building is erected already, because of the increase in the population and likewise the increased expected increase in arrests, they will continue.
They will continue.
They will continue to construct more.
All right, because I was being asked by Senator Lacson kung yung magiging 200% congestion rate next year. Ano ba yun? Nakahiga daw ba yun? Nakatayo?
Nakatagilid.
Nakatayo o nakahiga?
Wala na akong palitan. Dati kasi relievo. But kidding aside, but I expect that hopefully once completed, again, they will be able to improve.
I just chuckled a little, Mr. President, but it's a very serious question. Hopefully, in the next year or so, with the continuing structures that are being programmed by the BJMP, bababa ba yan? Ano?
Yes, Mr. Majority Leader, Mr. President,
We will look
it is
forward to
expected that the congestion rate will improve immensely, although not yet the desired 100% level, but at least from 600% to less than 300% will be a big achievement already and for the BJMP.
Okay. Just an update. How is the 911 or 911 emergency service of the DILG? How is it doing?
Mr. President, according to our ASEC, that the 911 is already operational.
Yeah, I know. I used it the other day. A few months ago. Mabilis ang action.
And according to our Assistant Secretary over here, that 60% of the calls are for medical purposes.
Okay.
If I may, Mr. Majority Floor Leader, can I interject? How many calls do you get on the average?
Yes, we were about to ask that. Since August, in your the launching, since August last year, how many calls were you able to receive and act on?
Mr. President, about 11 to 12,000 calls per day, and about 20% are prank calls, Mr. President.
20%, huh?
20.
The prank calls could not be traced. They have ano yan? Yung
Prepaid probably.
There's no way as of the moment, Mr. President, because most of the prank calls are made through prepaid numbers, Mr. President.
That again fortifies our proposal that we register the prepaid SIM cards, Mr. President. I sound like a broken record again. Anyway, ito ba yung free of charge when I call you from my cell phone?
No, Mr. President, it's about 5 pesos per call that is being charged for in your cell phone bill.
Originally, I wanted to say that baka kailangan gawin natin paraan libre, no? Bigla ko naisip, hindi. Wag. Because the prank calls will double. By libre.
That is very likely, Mr. President. So, I think charging it will be one way of preventing prank calls kasi magagastusan din po sila. But as it is right now, they're already 20% out of the total 911 calls are prank calls. So,
well, let us forget the proposal. In the list of the Office of the Secretary's locally funded projects, foreign assisted projects, there are 2 projects that caught my attention. The development and enhancement of LGU 201 profile system, it has a 35 million budget, and the enhancement of barangay information system with 11.5 million. Wala ito dito sa this year. This was 2017. I mean, wala dati. Ano ba ito?
Mr. President, for this year, there is no budget for that, but for 2018, because the DILG intends to undertake the LGU 201 profile system, wherein all the government officials in the LGU all the LGU officials will be put will be gathered, no, so that they will have a database. So that is the intent of this project for next year, the LGU 201 profile system.
Okay. Just going back to the 911 issue, Mr. President, may we recognize Senator Gordon?
Thank you. Again, with due apologies and thanks to my good colleague, Senator Soto. Yung 911 po natin is a very, very good system. And I commend the government, I commend the President. I just want to say for the record that the Philippine Red Cross gets at least 5 calls referred by 911 to us every day. Every day po yan. And our ambulances pick up the people that they need to be picked up. And we have enough. And we're not complaining. We're happy to be of assistance. Pero kung may sobra sila, baka dagdagan pa nila ambulansya dahil tumatanda na rin yung ambulansya natin. But the point is, the 911 system does work. And including fire trucks, Your Honor. And most of the time, our fire trucks augment the fire department when it comes to having water tankers, so that because we have very few fire hydrants in most of our cities, our 10,000-gallon trucks double up to support the 911 calls on fire, although it's a fire department that calls us, not 911. Just for the record, Your Honor, it's a cooperative venture. So that people will know na para malaman nyo, yung PIDAP ko na sila sabi na nakurap. Kaya doon nagsimula yung maraming ambulansya. We had 13 ambulances from my PIDAP. Now it's 137 ambulances and growing, Your Honor. Just for the record. Para di ko na sasabihin mamaya. Thank you.
Thank you,
Now that Senator Gordon mentioned fire trucks, The Bureau of Fire Protection, moving on, plans to purchase 45 units of fire trucks for 2018. Tama ba yan? 45 units. Yan ang plano niyong bilhin.
Mr. President, Your Honor, they intend to purchase for 2018 total of 56 units of fire trucks.
56 in the 45. All right. Now, based on the 2016 COA report, alam ko hindi kayo yun, ano? 37% of fire trucks delivered in 2015 were defective.
Yes, Your Honor, Mr. President, that is true. That is that the fire trucks that were purchased from China, Your Honor, Mr. President.
Were defective.
Yes, Mr. President. That is correct.
Aren't you running after these officials who procured these units?
Mr. President, according to our BFP officials, that charges have been filed already with the Ombudsman, by the Ombudsman, regarding those who are responsible for the purchase of these said fire trucks from China.
All right. Now that you are about to purchase 56 fire trucks for 2018, what are the safeguards that you are going to put in place so that this experience will no longer happen to these 56 fire trucks?
Mr. President, for the next purchase, the BFP officials assured that this time around that they will choose a unit that has ample service and that has been being sold already in the country, so that there will be service centers all over the country, because the dilemma right now of the China-made and the Rosenbauer, that it's very hard to service those fire trucks. So this time around, they assured that the units that they will purchase will be easy to service anywhere in the country.
All right, that's good. Therefore, at least we learn from our mistakes. We learn from our experience. Later on, Mr. President, we will take up the budget of the PIDEA. And just for the record, because earlier it was mentioned by Senator Gordon, when I was elected in 1992, my first privilege speech in September of that year was the creation of the Presidential Drug Enforcement Agency. That was my original proposal, the PIDEA. And it was really intended to be supervisory over the police. Somewhere along the way, naiba ng konti yung kulay niya eh. So until now, parang naging separate siya eh, kung tutuusin. No? Pero I was patterning it after the USDA. Like here in the country today, and some years back, even up to the present, there are only 2 USDA agents. But the question is, are they effective? Yes. E paano? Nagko-coordinate sila sa police, nagko-coordinate sila sa NBI, even in the States, nagko-coordinate sila sa FBI, sa Secret Service, sa ganon. Hindi sila mismo yung sole army against illegal drugs. That is the pattern that we wanted for the PIDEA originally. So now that the President has said that PIDEA will take the lead role, it does not mean that the PNP is no longer involved, because the PIDEA can tap the PNP in its operations. Even the armed forces of the Philippines can be tapped. It is in the law. So anyway, later perhaps when we take up the budget of the PIDEA, we can bring that up. And I hope the PNP, although we are through with them, unless some other members will interpolate, should give a listen to the the debate that we will be having when we tackle the budget of the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency and the Dangerous Drugs Board. So with that, Mr. President, I terminate my interpellations. Senator Gordon wishes to be recognized, Mr. President. I thank the sponsor for answering my questions. After the interjection of Senator Gordon, the President pro temp is next to interpellate, Mr. President.
Thank you to the Majority
Senator
Leader.
Gordon is recognized.
Again, thank you, Mr. President. I just want to consume my time for interpellation because sinasabayan ko na lang po yung Majority Floor Leader natin para hindi nakahaba ito. There are 2 points I'd like to make. One is on fire trucks. In America, a very rich country, they have fire trucks in the rural areas in the states, which are all voluntary. In the Philippines before, the fire trucks couldn't handle the effort at fighting fires, especially when it is time to pay taxes or time to get insurance from the fire. A lot of people lost their homes or lost their businesses. Kung nalulugi yung isang businessman, pinapasunog yung one. But as far as I'm concerned, Your Honor, perhaps it's about time that we consider the idea that we ought to urge our local communities, like the local Chinese, especially the cities. I believe the city should be the one to purchase fire trucks. I don't think the national government should purchase fire trucks for the cities because they have enough. The money that is coming from the ERA is so big that they can use this for fire trucks. Now, the money that we should get for fire trucks should be in our airports because yung mga crash fire trucks ay napakamahal niyan, Your Honor. So again, I would like to make that amendment later on if when we prepare it. But the other thing that I want to point out, Your Honor, is that for an example, the Red Cross have some fire trucks, Your Honor, and these are all run by volunteers. And let me just give you an idea of how many fire trucks actually service our country. We have 17 fire trucks, and our fire trucks response to date, Your Honor, is 292. Today, 292. Not to mention our water tankers that augment the fire trucks of the cities and the national government, as well as rescue vehicles. We have had responses for 34. These are people crushed under buildings or crushed in major accidents involving vehicles. So what I'm trying to say, Your Honor, is these are areas where voluntarism and where the cities who have a tremendous amount of money can be available so that we could actually save on the budget and maybe use part of that budget for national defense and for the use of our local police forces in extra cars or extra equipment or such as SOCO. So I hope that by next year, Your Honor, this is the trend that we should be looking at from the PNP and the DILG, because they are a part of the DILG, that if you look at the budget of cities, they can afford to have their own fire trucks. When I was in SBMA, I never got a fire truck from the national. In fact, you know, we have 2 fire trucks of the Red Cross in SBMA, working in SBMA. But SBMA can buy, and we did buy when I was there, major fire trucks for our airport and for the SBMA. So there is no reason why we cannot do that. We have to force the issue here, Your Honor.
Mr. President, if I may, that has been going on, and I concur and I agree with the gentleman from Olongapo that indeed the cities can afford.
That's correct.
To buy their own vehicles, not their fire trucks, their own police cars. But unfortunately, what has been going on, the practice is that there's some legislators or any government officials who will request, even though there are about 300 more LGUs or municipalities that doesn't have a single fire truck. The BFP now is has a sharing scheme, no? Because of the 300 or so or more fire trucks, LGUs that doesn't have fire trucks. So we are hoping that this time around, we have requested that the BFP prioritize those 300 LGUs that really doesn't have a single fire truck.
I agree with that, Your Honor. That's why I said cities. But you have to make sure that the fire trucks are utilized in coordination and cooperation among several municipalities. And they can have prepositioned water tankers. You know, Your Honor, just as a suggestion, there are many second-hand fire trucks that we were able to get. And up to now, they're still working. And the Japanese government that gave me second-hand fire trucks for the Red Cross is totally amazed that our fire trucks are still working until now because we properly maintain them. I'm not trying to pat myself in the back, but like I said, every time a fire truck, an ambulance goes, one of our little fire trucks will go with that. If it's a major fire, we will come out with our tankers, 10,000 gallons, 10,000 liters or 8,000 liters, so we can actually make the fire go away a lot faster. Now, on the matter, Your Honor, again, pursuing the questions made by the distinguished majority floor leader on the matter of BJMP, I just want to say, Your Honor, that we have a bill that will reduce and perhaps reduce really crime and reduce congestion. And the bill I've sponsored here is to make sure that for first-timers, kung ang offense is arresto mayor and arresto minor, you will now be required, instead of going to jail and associating with those who are grizzled veterans of crime, and you know, standing room only in our BJMP cells, they can go out and do community service. And that's why, again, what we need to do there is put a budget on community service supervision. That way, hindi mahalo, hindi matatatakan ng tato yung first offender, and the congestion will be much less. So that's just, again, part of some of the things that we'd like to offer by way of amendment, Your Honor.
Mr. President, that will be most welcome if that scheme would be able to help decongest our BJMP jails, which at present has a 623% congestion rates, and then that will be most welcome, Mr. President.
And you know, the other fact about the jails being congested is disease. When you check the congestion rate, you automatically will have all kinds of diseases, from tuberculosis to respiratory diseases, just simply all kinds. And the part that really hurts us is when media focuses on these jails, especially when there's a foreigner. And again, you hear the brouhaha raised by the fact that the president assured the Russian Prime Minister, Medvedev, that he will take care of 2 Russian prisoners. And the human rights people right away say, hey, that's not right. To a certain extent, I agree with that. Because really, just because they are jails doesn't mean that we cannot take care of them. And again, this is a Red Cross advocacy. The jails should allow for humanity to come in, that they should not forget they're humans, and that there should be proper toilets and proper... that's why we continue to give, for example, in the women's correctional, non-food items and you know, personal hygiene items such as towels, toothbrushes, soap. We do that. And again, volunteerism can come in here. The BJMP can work with the Red Cross and ask for this sort of thing, so that even in Muntinlupa, which is not BJMP, or for that matter, the provincial jails, we can get people from the schools to give such accoutrements to our people in jail, so that there's some dignity left. The idea is you go to jail and you reform and you get some measure of dignity. You don't go deeper into the dregs of human existence. That's the point I just would like to make, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Gordon. While waiting for the Senate President pro temp, with the indulgence of the distinguished sponsor, may the chair, without going down to the floor, raise just a few points.
So certainly, Mr. President, most welcome.
Distinguished sponsor, based on the questions or the issues raised by Senator Soto, Senator Gordon, and the other senators, as a matter of policy, is there an ongoing performance audit being conducted by whatever we call it, 911 or our hotline system? Because we are made to understand, based on several experience of several hearings, that kung sa armed forces, single sponsor, the operational readiness criteria is move, communicate, and shoot. Of course, Undersecretary Anyo is very well aware of that. No? In the case of the Philippine National Police, it's move, communicate, shoot, and investigate. Ngayon, the question basically is, as a matter of doctrine development, to test our reaction time, do we have an ongoing performance audit that is being conducted so that, well, this is actually also generated by the questions of Senator Gordon, so that we can conduct cost-benefit, risk-benefit analysis, and we can prioritize whether it's fire trucks or resources available to the PIDEA or the resources available or allocated to the Bureau of Jail Management. That's basically the question.
Yes, Mr. President, the 911 service only started during the Duterte administration, and as of the moment, there is no performance audit yet, but it is already being developed. So hopefully by next budget season, they will already have some reports regarding the response time and other details regarding the 911 operations.
We asked that question, distinguished sponsor, source persons are present. No? Because I do not think, this is a personal view, that the institutional reforms will be completed during the remaining 5 years of the Duterte administration. So the concern really is to institutionalize this to the point that whoever is president, whoever is secretary of the DILG, whoever is chief PNP, this will continue on a long-term basis, and it will impact properly as it should on the national budget beyond the pesos and centavos that we are allocating. So I reiterate that. No? But the response has been adequate. This is with the permission of the Senate President Pro Tem. No? I wanted to intervene. Now let's go to the BJMP. More than a decade ago, if I remember correctly, some senators went to the National Penitentiary. This is to address the issue of congestion. National Penitentiary na po ito, no? And it was a painful discovery that a percentage of the inmates there were there not because they were proven beyond reasonable doubt to be deserving of confinement. Some of them were there because they did not have lawyers. I'm not even saying good lawyers. Walang legal support. So if the intention is to decongest our penal system, and I'm talking of the National Penitentiary, have we conducted not only studies that will reflect the quantity, the number of inmates, what are the National Penitentiary or local, kundi the objective should be to decongest these detention facilities. Do we have such a study?
Yes, Your Honor, that's true. No, that there are some who are in jail because of lack of they do not have lawyers. No? But according to Yusekui, that they have paralegal. They have contracted paralegal to help some of the detainees so that it will hasten, no, their cases as of the moment, President.
Well, sometime in the future, even after the budget deliberations, we will request for any submission in that regard that should give your Congress, your Senate, an idea of what possible legislative interventions can be undertaken to help decongest our penal system?
Yes, Mr. President, the DILG officials have committed that they will submit a report regarding the point that they have raised, Mr. President.
Senator Lisa Hontiveros is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. With the indulgence of the good sponsor, I believe if we were to do a review of literature, meron pong mga research, mga pag-aaral, mga rekomendasyon regarding reforms to our penal system, including, Mr. President, one of the top of mind would be the book Freedom and Death Inside the City Jail by Raymond Narag. Si Raymond Narag, Mr. President, ay isang UP fratman noon who spent 6 years inside the Quezon City Jail. At habang nasa loob siya, he conducted what he later called a participatory research na isinulat niya as an academic paper when he went back to school upon his release. At doon po ay nagbuo po siya ng mga proposals regarding reforms to the penal system. So isa lang po ito siguro, Mr. President, top of mind na mayamang mga materyales na pwede po nating. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you,
Thank you, good
Senator Risa.
sponsor.
Is the DILG PNP family listening to the suggestion? Listening sponsor, kaya ko po tinanong ito dahil I believe that you cannot give what you do not have. And it is our understanding based on information that we did not solicit. No? Sa loob mismo ng PNP, may pagkukulang pa tayo sa legal support. May mga kapulisan tayo na kumisan na lalagay sa alanganin, no? I am sure that under the present stewardship, the DILG and the PNP, this has been significantly reduced. Pero yung bang uutusan, no, by the chain of command, and then somewhere along the line, no, the information is distorted. Yung inutusan para gawin yung implement yung legal order, yung paang nakakasuhan. At pag nakasuhan, they are left to their own devices to hire their own lawyers. Ang punto ko lang, ising sponsor, is, again, this is beyond the budgetary allocation. No? Kung sa loob mismo ng kapulisan, may pagkukulang sa legal support, then the big leap towards providing paralegal support for detainees and prisoners is going to be significant in terms of resource allocation. By the way, using sponsor, I'm not requiring any more an answer. No? Now, last point raised, of course, by Senator Gordon. So any submission would be much appreciated.
Yes, Your Honor, Mr. President, that's really a dilemma because as of the moment, the legal service of the PNP has less than 100 legal personnel, no? So they are handling about more than 10,000 cases.
Yes.
So it's really a problem.
Your Honor, if the law of nature kicks in, then with this kind of ratio, quality of legal support will suffer. That's sigurado yan. And it will affect morale, operational efficiency. Now,
in fact, Mr. President, if I may, we have that experience in San Juan, no, that there are 2 of our policemen who were able to catch a known pusher, but because the pusher is well connected, counter charge was filed, and in the end, it was the 2 police officers who was dismissed, and the other one went awol already. So that's really if this was a picture of what is happening all over the country, probably this is the dilemma that the PNP is facing right now with the measly 100 lawyers handling PNP cases of more than 10,000. So it's not remote that a lot of our police officers will not be able to get legal assistance, no, from the organization.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Second to the last question. I wanted to intervene earlier, no? I was monitoring the proceedings, but 5 o'clock, it was my turn to preside. So, last two questions. Let's talk about Marawi. A question was raised earlier by the minority leader. Was it, I don't want to split hairs here, no? Was it a failure of intelligence or a failure of local government? Now, let me explain. No? How we have asked this question time and again, even before the Marawi incident. How were they able to stockpile arms, ammunition, food, build tunnels, bunkers, okay, without the knowledge of local government? But having said that, when we impose this burden on local government, Your Honor, hindi natin pwedeng iwanan yan. We must empower them para makareact, makadepensa until our rapid reaction forces are able to come in. I'm talking about AFP and PNP. So, the first question is, bakit, Marawi ito, no? Your Honor, bakit hindi ninyo ni-report? Okay? Pag-election, alam natin lahat eh. Alam natin kung sino, Lasengo, etc., etc. Okay. The response is normally, paano po, hindi namin alam. That is the second question. Bakit ninyo hindi alam? Now, you superimpose that situation over a populace and a political structure that benefits economically and politically. Then we have an interesting situation. And if we go by the statements of the President, terrorism did not begin and will not end in Marawi. The armed conflict did not begin and will not end in Mindanao. It promises to become worse before it becomes better. So, let's go back to the original question. Technically, because you can say local government, kasama yan sa intelligence loop. So, was it a failure of intelligence or a failure of local government which we should support or empower adequately para makareact naman?
Well, Mr. President, it's a combination of both, no? Probably failure of the local government, and likewise it's a social cultural problem because probably as you know, the problem in Mindanao is that the secessionists and the other rebellion movement, rebel movement has been getting sympathizers because there have been leaders, no, that have really taken advantage. No? They are the ones whose lives are improving, but those at the bottom, no, they remain poor. And likewise, according to the Chief PNP and the DIG officials, they are now conducting investigations whether some officials from barangay level up to local officials are in collusion or are protecting or are sympathizers of the Maute ISIS group. So because it's quite impossible that barangay officials will not know of any plan of this ISIS Maute group. However, Mr. President, that is one of the reasons also why martial law has been declared and is recommended to be extended because of the number of loose firearms in Mindanao. Natural lang, Mr. President, natural na marami pong armas doon. Kaya this time around, if you ask any Mindanaoan right now, they are in favor of extending martial law precisely for the very reason that sabi nga nila, pantay-pantay kami ngayon. No? Even the warlords, those with private armies cannot move right now with their private armies because of the martial law. So it's a combination of probably of all of those that you have mentioned, failure of intelligence, and likewise probably collusion of some local and barangay officials, and it's partly of a socio-economic problem, Mr. President, socio-cultural and economic problem.
Your Honor, I'm more than satisfied with your responses because, Your Honor, you speak with authority. Being once upon a time a local government executive. No? But I will skip my last question because this is a more important question. How are we doing in institutionalizing our intelligence efforts to the point where we are getting alarming information that the Maute group that started this Marawi incident, no, were more technically equipped than government troops. No? By the way, that's not necessarily a negative comment. No? Raqqa in Syria, which was established as a headquarters by ISIS, it took the United States and all its allies 5 years. I'm not saying we should celebrate because it took us only 5 months. No? I'm just saying that's the comparative situation. No? But my point really is, we are getting reports that the Maute snipers were able to triangulate the location of our commanders on the ground. I will not, this is not a commentary on the capability of the leadership of the AFP and the PNP. In fact, I'm proud to say that those at the helm of the AFP and PNP on the ground are much more capable than we were during our time, when Senator Lacson and I were wearing the uniform. But having said that, how far have we gone in terms of development, in terms of cyber security, addressing this problem frontally without the necessary loss of lives that will improve our ratio for success?
Yes, Mr. President, the Maute ISIS group came very prepared. As a matter of fact, you are correct, no? That they have equipment, they had the equipment, they had the firearms, they had food, and likewise they had sophisticated equipment like drones and other communications equipment. No? That probably because of the collapse of the ISIS operations in Iraq, the intent of this terrorist group was really to establish a caliphate. So that is the very reason why they were funded, they were well funded, and were very well prepared. So this is likewise, Mr. President, this is the very reason that we are, the DILG and the PNP are requesting for additional funding for counterterrorism and counterintelligence, so that a Marawi crisis will not happen again. And as a matter of fact, as I mentioned earlier, Mr. President, in the just concluded ASEAN, as I mentioned, it is really, the terrorism is really a clear and present danger, and it's an international concern. In fact, we've been to other places in Europe for the parliamentary visit in France and London, and they have been under emergency powers for the past 2 years already, Mr. President. So that really goes to show that terrorism is present. It's a clear and present danger that we really have to address. And if we are to put up an honest-to-goodness capable counter-terrorism unit, we really have to spend so much because, Mr. President, as you know, these surveillance equipment, they cost a lot. These sophisticated weapons cost a lot. And if we really want to have a unit that is prepared, we have to send personnel abroad for training, no? Either to the United States or to Israel or other countries that can conduct counterterrorism training. So it really entails quite a lot of cost, no? Quite a big cost for us to be able to have a counterterrorism unit that would be very much ready anytime there is a threat of terrorist attack.
Thank you, Your Honor. As a last point, I have some difference of opinion in that. No? When we're talking about operational readiness in terms of counterterrorism, I think, it's just my humble opinion, that it still has to be high-tech information-driven. That will govern the deployment of your SWAT teams or your tip of the spear, so to speak. But that is just a suggestion that I place at the doorstep of the leadership of the DILG and the PNP, so that we can institutionalize the allocation of resources. I would like to end on a high note, but that is quite difficult. Your Honor, you mentioned something about popular support. You keep on denying that we pay ransom, but that's another issue altogether. Ang kwento sa ating lahat, Your Honor, is yung terorista, pag bumili ng corned beef, magbibigay ng 1,000 for 3 cans of corned beef. At ang sasabihin dun sa sari-sari store owner, keep the change. Ang question really is, isusumbong mo ba? Nagbigay ng 1,000 for 3 cans of corned beef sa authority. That's food for thought so that we can improve our not only intelligence operations, efforts, but to improve the capability of local government. Your Honor, I know you have been standing there for a few hours, and I thank you
No,
for
but that's okay, Mr. President. The interjections and the recommendations of the chair is well taken and likewise noted by the DILG and the PNP officials.
Maraming salamat po.
President, may we now recognize the President Pro Tem, Senator Ralph Recto.
I would like to thank the President Pro Tem for his patience in allowing me to intervene. Senator President Pro Tem is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Senate President, Majority Leader. Just very quickly, Mr. Sponsor, I do not intend to take much time of the sponsor also. I just wanted to clarify just a very few number of issues. Mr. President, may I ask the sponsor, how much is the budget of the DILG for 2018? And comparing it to the 2017, what is the budgetary increase?
Mr. President, 2018 budget is 170,733,651,000. And 2017 is 148,037,708,000.
And therefore, the increase is roughly 22.5 billion. Is that correct?
Thereabout, Mr. President.
Thereabouts. Now,
Thereabout, Mr. President.
where did we put the increase? What is the proposal of the executive or in the committee report? Where did the 22.5 billion go? Regard to the increase. Essentially, isn't it 20 billion of the 22 billion is for PS?
Mr. President, according to our USEC, that most of the increase went to personal services, which included the third tranche of compensation adjustments per EO number 201 for BFP, BJMP,
Correct.
NAPOLCOM.
So of the 22.7 billion, frankly speaking, and this is the point I'm trying to raise, 20.3 billion went to the increase for PS. Only 1.7 billion for MOE and only 617 million increase in capital outlay.
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Mr. President.
Okay. So, and essentially, the biggest component of which is, of course, with regard to the most number of personnel under the DILG, would be the PNP.
Yes, Mr. President.
And just for the record, Mr. President, how much is the budget of the PNP? Isn't it that the budget of the PNP is 131 billion?
Yes, Mr. President, it's 131,503,000,000.
Correct.
Increase is about 19 billion.
Okay, so 19.6 billion. So kung 22.5 yung increase, 19.6 pasweldo pala ng uniform personnel natin in the PNP, by and large.
Yes, Mr. President.
Right? And then the increase, essentially the increase also, aside from the Bureau of Jail, which we support, is only with regard to the MOE of 1.2 billion and 600 million capital outlay of the PNP. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. President.
Now, may I find out how much did the PNP request in their wish list to improve its capability to fight crime, to ensure law and order, to provide public security and safety. I'm sure the PNP had a bigger wish list, which they submitted to the DBM. Is that correct?
For a while, Mr. President, we're just getting the data. Mr. President, the budget requested by the Philippine National Police is 154.39 billion.
So there's a 23 billion cut.
Yes, the
from the
DBM
request.
only endorsed or
And
approved
may I know for the
131
record,
billion.
may I know, because essentially there is no increase for the PNP. Lahat napunta sa sweldo eh. Diba? Okay, now, they submitted 23 billion more. I'm sure pinag-isipan nila what the 23 billion is required. Okay? Now, I'm sure that that 23 billion would be for improving mobility of our police.
Mr. President, that's for capital outlay
Right?
to purchase equipment, vehicles,
And
infrastructure.
what is the purpose of that capital equipment? To improve their capability to fight crime.
Yes, Mr. President, that's correct.
Yes. May I know what the increase in the national budget is for next year? Kanong total increase in national budget next year? The budget increase for 2018 is roughly 350 billion. Is that correct? The national budget,
National budget is
3.4
about
to
350
3.7
billion.
plus trillion eh. 3.7 trillion ang budget next year. 3.4 trillion in 2017. Ang hindi nagastos, 600 billion. Ang hindi magagastos this year, 700 billion.
Yes, correct. You're correct, Mr. President.
And I understand that the priority of this administration and that of the President is the fight against criminality. Drugs is just one of them. And second, counterterrorism. Now, if the budget will increase by 350 billion and we're not increasing the budget for both the AFP and the PNP to give them the capability, what should we expect from them? Many other Marawis?
Yes, you're correct, Mr. President. That is why the PNP right now is requesting for additional budget
Yes.
to improve its counterterrorism operations.
Correct. And now, just to put this on record, because I am with the sponsor of this department, as we did last year, increase the budget of the PNP through the unprogrammed fund. Kulang-kulang mga 5 billion if I recall. Maybe we can do the same this year, but not only through the unprogrammed, but also through the program fund. You know, I've been listening to the debates of the 900 million. Saan mapupunta yung 900 million dun sa war on drugs? Pero ang deficit ng PNP is 24 billion. Okay? Now, for the record, ilan bang to effectively fight crime, unang-una, kailangan mo ng mobility. Land, sea, and air. Meron na ba tayong, I'm sure we have information and we have an inventory of our air transport. Meron ba tayong air transport?
None as of the moment, Mr.
None
President.
as of the moment.
I think for the past 7 years, there is no single aircraft that is
okay.
flying out of the air unit.
Seacraft.
Senator Rector,
Yes.
I cannot let this moment pass. No? May the chair intervene
Yes, please.
on that point. Your Honor, no, to the distinguished sponsor.
Yes, Mr. President.
I'm not asking for a response, but I just wanted to push the point that I think is being raised by the Senate President Pro Tem. No? Pwede nyo bang idagdag dun sa projection ninyo as it stands para malaman natin kung saan talaga i-deploy yung budget? We asked this from the AFP, if Yusek Anyo remembers. Do we have the information on the teeth-to-tail ratio of the PNP? For every patrolman or superintendent in the headquarters, ilan ang nasa field na nagpapatrolya? Para ma-relate natin dun sa tinatanong ng Senate President Pro Tem, our requirement for air, sea, and land transport. Para maintindihan natin, I'm not, please forgive me for raising my voice. I'm just saying that this is something that should be studied from a baseline data, where we stand. Ilan ang nagpapatrolyang police to fight crime, drugs, etc., at ilan ang nasa headquarters? Would we have that information? Your Honor, I'm not asking for an answer. I just wanted to relate that to the questions that have been raised so far by the Senate President. I will stop there. Thank you, sir.
Mr. President, just to give, according to the ILG and PNP, the standard deployment is 85% should be in the field and 15% in the offices.
Senator Recto, may I just...
Yes, please continue.
Ano ang ibig sabihin ng nasa field? Driver, is that the field? Clerk typist, nasa police station. Secretary Cuy and Secretary Anyo are there, no, listening, and TPNP. We have to, this goes beyond numbers and ratios. We have to provide a qualitative dimension para malaman talaga natin kung ano ang job description, and we can judiciously allocate, diba, limited resources on a prioritized basis. Pasensya na ho kayo, Senator Recto. I will stop there.
Please continue, President. You are,
you
are the tactician. Yes. So I heard the response of the sponsor, 85%. Ilan ba talaga ang number of policemen natin? Do we have 130 or 160,000?
Authorized is supposedly 194,000, but the actual number of PNP personnel is about 181,000, Your Honor.
So 181 filled up positions. Is that correct? 181 filled up?
Yes, Mr. President, you're correct.
Okay. Ilan naman yung pensionado natin? Just a side issue.
About 83,000 pensioners, Mr. President.
So right now, halos kalahati ng filled up pensionado 83,000. Yung budget ba ng pensionado nasa PNP o nasa DBM?
Mr. President, the pension fund is not lodged in the PNP, but under the pension and gratuity fund being managed by the DBM.
And how much is the pension fund of the PNP? About 26 billion, di ba?
For 2016, it's about 24 billion, 625 million.
Okay.
For 2017, it's 25 billion, 944 million.
Tama yung sinabi ko, 26. Having said that, if the sponsor said 85% should be in the field, that's 85% of the 180,000, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
At yung 15% nun, yun yung nasa opisina.
Yes, Mr. President.
Yung 100, so yung 85%, today ba, 85% nasa field?
Yes, Mr. President. That should be the standard.
Okay. So ibig sabihin, nagpapatrolya yan.
There are three shiftings, Mr. President, every for each day.
So knowing that number, ilan vehicle ang kailangan mo? I have a list here, Mr. President, to shorten, abbreviate based on submissions, you need 16,000 patrol cars. And based on submissions, you only have 4,177. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. President, that's correct. The requirement is, you're correct, 16,000, but the on-hand, there are only about 4,000 patrol cars.
So ang fill-up rate natin, 25% lang.
Yes, you are correct, Mr.
And
President.
this budget doesn't do anything to improve that ratio.
Yes, Mr. President, you are correct.
And then we have a problem in fighting. We have a problem today, and we will continue to have a problem on law and order, not to mention additional pressures on anti-terrorism.
Yes, you are correct, Mr. President. That's the dilemma that the
And then we
PNP
don't
is
have an
facing
air
right now.
asset. We don't have an air asset. Huh? Motorcycle, ilan ba yung motor? Masaya na nga tayo sa motorsiklo lang eh. And the motorcycle needed is roughly the same number, 16,000.
You are correct, Mr.
I'm just
President.
rounding them off. And you only have how many motorcycles?
4,500, Mr. President.
Again, roughly a 25% fill-up rate, or thereabouts,
Thereabouts, Mr. President.
30%. Okay? What about mga truck and troop carriers?
Special purpose vehicle, Mr. President, the requirement is about 926, but on hand, there are about 24 on hand currently.
So 15%.
Yes, Mr.
So
President,
may
that's correct.
bibilin ba tayo next year na dagdag na equipment? Mobility lang to. Okay? So,
Mr. President, part of the capability enhancement program, the regular CEP is about 2 billion. The special is about 1.9 billion. And under this are,
will that radically change the outlook? It will not be. Di ba? That's why we submitted 24 billion to DBM. Is that correct?
Mr. President, here are the breakdowns. No? Brand new minibus, about 20. CDM bus, 10. Brand new van, 41. Light transport vehicle, 160. Motorcycle, 645cc, about 308. Ambulance, 20. And SWAT armored personal carrier, one lot.
One lang.
One lot.
One
lot, probably
Ilan yun?
it's about 12 billion. So probably about
lot. Okay.
10
12
units.
billion? But that's not found in your budget. The entire capital outlay of the PNP for 2018 is only 4.5 billion.
Sorry, Mr. President, 12 million. Stand corrected.
Yeah, isa lang. Okay. Anyway, so I'm just trying to put a point here. Now, mobility yan. Okay. 85% of 180,000. Lahat ba yan ngayon may long firearm at short firearm?
Mr. President, as of the moment, the requirement for short firearms is about 194,410. But on hand, we only have about 143,742. For long firearms,
So
it's
mataas naman yung fill-up rate natin, more or less.
about 74%, Mr.
Okay.
President.
And then long firearm,
For the long firearm, 95,320. And on hand is only about 54,184 or a 57% fill-up
to
rate.
complete it, magkano na lang ang kulang mo?
There's a shortage about 41,136 firearms.
Okay. Paano naman yung bala? Ang bala ang kailangan yan. May training ba taon-taon? Nakakaputok ba yung PNP natin? Nakakapag-practice ba? And how often do they practice?
Yes, Mr.
At least
President,
kami ni General Bato, nakakapag-practice kami sa Lipa.
I was told that supposedly they have a quarterly training for...
And how many
for shooting.
bullets are given to them for their training?
Ammo.
Mr. President, about 360 rounds for the year already.
For the year.
For the year.
Kasama
Per
na
person.
Kasama na yun pag may bakbakan.
Well, it has to be replenished, no? When it will be used for
360 a
training.
year ang allocation. That's for practice or for operations or for total na yon?
Mr. President, for 2018, the budget for ammunition is 120,501,000.
And that's enough for your entire PNP?
Mr. President, to be honest, it's not enough, no, for 180,000
So pwede bang
policemen.
ang polis naubusan ng bala, yung kriminal hindi nauubusan? So sa Marawi, balita ko naubusan daw ng bala yung AFP at PNP. Totoo ba yun?
According to Secretary Anya, Secretary Koy, that is not true, Mr. President.
I will ask again tomorrow in the okay? But having said that, let me continue. Bulletproof vest. How many bulletproof vests do we have in the PNP? Now, while we're waiting for that,
Yes, Mr. President, we'll just wait for the,
sure.
for the figures.
I have information here that as we were talking about mobility, as far as watercrafts are concerned, the requirement is 4,086. And we only have 249. A fill-up rate of 6%. Is that correct?
For watercraft, Mr. President?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. President, watercraft.
Okay. So, ganong kasama yung equipment natin.
Yes, in fact, I was told by General De La Rosa that one time that they had a conference with Indonesia and Malaysia with regards to the security of the channel in the borders, when they were asked to give commitments for watercraft, to patrol the area. The only thing that General De La Rosa was able to say that the watercraft of the PNP Maritime is only good for the shorelines. No, it cannot go further.
In fact, of the 200,
They cannot go to the high seas, Mr. President.
in fact, the data will show of the 249 on hand, 105 are rubber boats.
Yes, Mr. President.
You only have 21 speed. Ilan yung ginagamit sa Lake Lanao dito? Sa Marawi.
Mr. President, there's a total of 4, 2 from SAF and 2 from the Maritime.
So, I'm putting all of this in record so that at the appropriate time, there are many other items in the other agencies that I suppose we can realign for the PNP. Yeah. Now, i-prioritize natin, halimbawa, yung bulletproof vest din. Naasahan natin sila to fight criminals. And the first that we can do for them, aside from providing them with the ammunition and the firearms, is to protect themselves.
Mr. President, I have here already, for tactical vests, about 2,027 pieces.
Ilan yung kailangan? 85% ba of all PNP personnel then? Or less than
Mr.
that?
President, this is the one that they intend to purchase for next year. So it's only 2,027. So undershirt vest level 2A is about 812. The requirement
for
is
special forces lang yan siguro.
yeah. Yes, Mr. President, you are correct. It is ideal that all the personnel in the field, about 151,000 of them would be given vests for protection. But unfortunately, the budget only allows them to purchase about 2,000.
Okay. How much is per piece? O yung 2,000, magkano ba yan? Total budget.
Per piece is about 65,000 for the tactical vest. And budget for 2027 pieces is about 131,755,000, Mr. President.
Saan gagamitin ngayon yan? SAF lang yan.
Yes, Mr. President. Only for SAF.
So those are some of the points I just wanted to bring up, Mr. President, to show na kulang talaga. And at the appropriate time, we are drafting a letter to the chairman of the committee. We have identified 147 billion for next year's budget that we can cut. For next year. And possibly to realign for the purpose of which, one, double the salaries of the PNP and for personnel. Because as I understand it, that will be the next move of the administration. Or there will be a Senate resolution to be filed soon, doubling the salaries of the military and uniformed personnel. Second, to upgrade the capability of the AFP and the P, especially in the fight on terrorism. And third, Marawi rehabilitation. There's a lot of areas in the budget cut and realign for the purpose of the priorities of the administration. Now, just a few more questions. If we were to double the salaries of the uniformed personnel, as it's former Chief of Staff General Anyes here, I'm sure you know what it would do to the military too. So for the military and the PNP, other uniformed personnel, meron tayong salary standardization. Ang implementation sa military at sa PNP, hindi sweldo kung hindi allowance.
Yes, Mr. President.
Okay? And the reason for that is because we're scared of the pension. Now, my position is this. I've said this already here in the Senate. Why are we scared of the pensions? When, one, that was our commitment to them when they signed up. Now, how do you solve that problem? You can solve that problem that henceforth, all new entrants, baguhin natin yung sistema, make them a part of GSIS already. Itong bagong increase, plus 20% from the national government to contribute to GSIS. Fund B, Fund A is lahat tayong government employees. Yan na yan. All new entrants to the military and the PNP, bagong kontrata yan. May sweldo na kayong dagdag. Pero dito na kayo sa GSIS. And all those before that, kung ano yung pinangakong pension system, apply. Hindi dapat Indian giver ang gobyerno, tama?
Yes, Mr. President. That's that's a welcome proposal.
Would the sponsor join me in pushing for this as well?
If it will, solve the problem of pensions of the PNP and the AFP, then I would gladly join you.
And at the same time, double the pay of the military.
That would really help a lot, Mr. President. Of course, the prime consideration, of course, for our AFP and PNP personnel is to give them a decent salary so that they would remain straight and steadfast in the performance of their duty, Mr. President.
Thank you with that. Mr. President, I do not have any further questions at the appropriate time. I would like to join the sponsor of the budget of the DLG. As we collaborated in the past, in 2017 to increase the budget of the PNP for some of these equipment. Unfortunately, maybe one final question. Naglagay tayo ng pondo for their air asset. Bakit hindi nabili?
Mr. President, it's already for delivery because it takes about a year when you order. So it's about to be delivered, and there's tentative this December just for one air asset, and there's a plan to use the program to buy two or three single engine for mixed use, for multi-purpose.
So, mag-uumpisa na tayo,
Mr. President. Finally, Mr. President, in fact...
For delivery this December.
For delivery this December. In fact, for the past 7 years, Mr. President, there was no single flying air asset for the PNP. There are only three, as of the present, there are only three remaining pilots of the PNP air unit. So there is also a need to recruit pilots. And train pilots. But the good news is that the air unit now has an honest-to-goodness flying aircraft already.
When this aircraft arrives, since you and I helped the PNP purchase this aircraft, at may imbita kaya tayo para makita man lang natin?
Probably for the maiden flight, Mr. President, since we were the ones who put the budget, probably they will invite us at least to savor the champagne that will be sprinkled on the first air asset in 7 years.
Yes, I will bring the champagne, Mr. President. So with that, Mr. Sponsor, thank you very much to our Senate President, Majority Leader. Maraming salamat.
Thank you also for Senator Recto for your support for the PNP as usual. And again, let me reiterate, Mr. President, the need really to address and to give importance to the counterterrorism operations because it's really a clear and present danger. So I join Senator Recto in his concern to augment the budget of the PNP to increase the capability in fighting crime and the counterterrorism, Mr. President.
Your Honor, to the distinguished sponsor, will you favor the chair with a response to, out of curiosity, bringing up ni Senator Recto kanina yung armor vest at saka yung sweldo. We have here Secretary Cuy, former SAP commander, and Secretary Anyo, former Chief of Staff. This is just gut feel of a commander. If you were to ask our men on the ground kung ano ang pipiliin nila, an incremental increase in pay or a 65,000 peso armor vest, ano sa tingin ninyo ang pipiliin? An armor vest will enhance their survivability in combat. An incremental increase in pay will probably allow them to eat a little bit better. Merienda, aircon, more TV time. No, this is a serious question because if we cannot get this information, I'm referring to Secretary Anyo and Secretary Cuy, no? Ito, commander's gut feel, gut instinct. You have served at ground level and at the highest levels of the chain of command. Gut feel lang. Pakiramdam natin sa mga tao natin. Kung papipiliin ninyo sila ngayon, kung ano gusto nila, konting increase sa salary or armor vest.
Mr. President, if possible, of course, both.
Yes.
But if they were made to choose, I guess they will choose the pay. But since the pay was committed already by the President, so they will choose the armor vest.
Okay. I understand that. Now please forgive me for these questions. No? Yung mga tanong kanina ng Senate President Pro Temp natin, importante ho yun. No? Because this is, I'm glad we are gathered in this plenary hall this afternoon, no? This evening. Because this is something for us to think about. We're talking about firearms and ammunition, training time. Yet, the law says that the police, the Philippine National Police, is national in scope and civilian in character. Something for us to think about. As we proceed not only with the budget, we're actually asking the leadership of the DILG and the PNP to design the police force of the future, not only for this budget deliberations. With that, thank you, Your Honor, for your indulgence.
Likewise, thank you, Mr. President, for your suggestions. All of them are well taken. Thank you very much for...
Majority Floor Leader.
President, may we now recognize the gentleman from Mindanao, Senator Manny Pacquiao,
Senator
for
Pacquiao.
the final interpellation for the budget of the DILG.
The final interpretation for the
final
DILG.
blow.
Yes. In the meantime, I move for a suspension before we recognize Senator Pacquiao.
Senate suspended.
Nakita kita
Mushroom.
ready to resume, Mr. President?
Session resumed.
Finally, for tonight, Mr. President, for the DILG, may we recognize Senator Manny Pacquiao.
Senator Manny Pacquiao is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I'm ready, Mr. President.
Mr. President, may I ask a few questions? My colleague permitted us.
Well, definitely and most certainly, even if it's time already, I would not mind that our national treasure will score the final blow or the final knockout for tonight.
I'm the last, Mr. President, so I'm the main event. Mr. President, the budget for DILG is approximately 170 billion allocated to both law enforcement and for local government supervision. The union of the local governments and the police force under the same department is hereby virtue of Republic Act 6975, which created the PNP, and together with the NABOLCOM, Bureau of Fire Protection, Bureau of Jail and Management Penology, and the Philippine Public Safety College were reorganized as the new DILG. With this, I will divide my interpellation into two. First, on the concerns regarding the local governments. Second, on the Interior Department's BFP, BGMP, NAPOLCOM, and PNP. Mr. President, let us first discuss local government supervision as one of the main thrusts of the ILG. Let us start on the support to the local chief executive, our governors, mayors, barangay captains, then the local legislative body. For general information, may we know the updated number of LGUs per province, city, and municipality in barangays?
As of the moment, Mr. President, there are about 81 provinces, 145 cities, 1,489 municipalities, and 42,036 barangays, Mr. President. That's the total breakdown of the local government units.
Thank you, Mr. President. May also know the leagues are recognized by the ILG for local authorities and for which LGU officials are affiliated, particularly for governors, vice governors, city mayors, municipal mayors, councilors, and barangay officials.
Mr. President, can you please repeat that question? Sorry.
May we also know the leagues recognized by the ILG for local authorities? Governor?
Mr. President, there are about 12 leagues, no? Governors League, Vice Governors League, ULAP, City League of Cities of the Philippines, League of Municipalities, Vice Governors, Councilors, and others. So there are about 12 barangays also, no? So there are about 12 leagues that are recognized by the DILG.
Thank you, Mr. President. To the issue of ERA independence sa mga LGUs, ilang porsyento ng ating mga LGUs ang ERA dependent? What is the role of the ILG in capacitating these LGUs to give them priority access on national government programs and projects? Magkano po ang inallocate natin for capacity training if there be any?
Mr. President, those that are ERA dependent are usually the third to fifth class municipalities. The first and second class municipalities are not dependent on ERA, and likewise, even of course the cities, no, are not ERA dependent as well. So it's the third to fifth class municipalities that are dependent on ERA.
May I know how many of those, Mr. President?
About 700 towns, Mr. President, that are ERA dependent.
The ILG guides LGUs on technical know-how through their respective local government operations officers assigned in every LGU to fully grasp what is needed in local government governance as mandated by the local government code. They assess the local chief executives, especially the newly elected governors and mayors, for effective administration and implementation of development programs, projects, and priorities. Formulation of local government plans must be complied, such as, but not limited to, the following: Comprehensive Development Plan, Executive Legislative Plan, Peace and Order and Public Safety Plan, Comprehensive Land Use Plan, Local Climate Change Action Plan, Solid Waste Management Plan, Road Network Plan. I believe these local plans are important as a roadmap to good governance and to also avoid duplication of programs and projects sa isang probinsya, dahil dito mo makikita ano ang priority o program, projects, activities ng mga LGUs. Now, may I ask the compliance rate of the LGUs? Lahat po ba ng LGU may updated local plans updated by respective sanggunian? Is this updated local plans adopted by respective sanggunian? Is this mandated by law or discretionary?
Mr. President, they do not have the data right now, but they will submit the breakdown to your office and as well as the Finance Committee. They will just submit now because they do not have the breakdown as of the moment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Republic Act number 8371, or the April law, mandates the installation of indigenous people's mandatory representative, o IPMR, in local legislative bodies. May I ask, Mr. President, kung lahat ba ng LGU kailangan mag-comply nito? And per monitoring ng DILG, ilan po ang compliance rate ng lahat ng mga LGUs, including barangay nationwide?
Mr. President, according to our DIG official, si Panadero, that compliance rate is about 85%. Only 85%.
Compliance, most of them are in municipality or barangays?
This is the municipality, city, and the provinces, Mr. President.
I want to know, Mr. President, kung municipality, barangays, or province yung mataas yung compliance ng pag-install ng IPMR.
Mr. President, according to Sec. Panadero, provinces have a high compliance rate. The cities are quite okay, but the ones with that has a problem with compliance are the municipalities. So yung province, has good compliance, followed by the city, and the municipalities have poorer compliance as compared to the two.
Thank you, Mr. President. To ensure disaster preparedness in every LGUs, Republic Act 10121 or the Philippine Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Act of 2010 categorically mandates the LGU to establish a local disaster risk reduction and management office. What is the compliance rate of LGUs as this law was enacted 7 years ago? Per monitoring, lahat po ba ng LGU institutionalize na ang pagpalagay ng LDRRM office ng mandate by this law?
Mr. President, with regards to the office, about 90% have established disaster preparedness office or CDR or local disaster risk reduction office, and about 39.96% of all cities and municipalities have a plantilla of LDRRMO. So 90% compliance,
90%.
but only 39.96% have plantilla position for local disaster risk reduction municipal officer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Umako naman tayo sa ating local legislative council, in particular the Sangguniang Panlalawigan for the provinces, Sangguniang Panglungsod for cities, Sangguniang Bayan for municipalities, and Sangguniang Barangay. What is the role of the DILG? Ano po ang support extended by the DILG to them? If there is, how much is allocated to capacitate them?
Usually, Mr. President, the DILG conducts trainings for board members, for councilors, up to, and also the barangay officials, the barangay kagawads. So all those three are being trained by the DILG.
Do you have a budget for that, Mr. President? May I know how much?
140 million is allotted for trainings of LG officials.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I confirm from the DILG if they are the agency that evaluates the Sangguniang concern for the local legislative award? What are the common indicators in choosing the best Sangguniang?
Mr. President, according to DILG, they do not have a criteria for the best Sangguniang. But however, with the SGLG or the Seal of Good Local Governments, the Sangguniang is already part of the criteria that is being given to the best local government units or the SGLG. Before they are given the Seal of Good Local Governance, of course, the Sangguniang will be part of that, one of the criteria for the LG to give the SGLG. With regards to your query regarding the best Sangguniang, it is being given by the local, the Philippine Councilors League. So the DILG only gives out the SGLG for the local government unit as a whole.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sa level ng mga sanggunian, as a local legislative body, lahat po ba naka-codify na ang mga ordinansa? What are the basic codes such as tax and investment code, tourism code, guide code, market code na kailangan mainak as level ng LGUs? Compliant ba ang ating mga LGUs by what rate?
Mr. President, with regards to solid waste and revenue codes, the Sanggunian overall Sanggunian performance is quite high. But with regards to land use, unfortunately, most of the Sanggunians score very low sa land use. But with regards to revenues and solid waste and other matters of local governments, they score quite high, except for land use.
May I know how you rate, Mr. President?
As long as there's the presence already of ordinances passed regarding improvement of revenues and likewise solid waste, so there's no clear criteria, Mr. President, as long as local ordinance or legislation has been passed in compliance with the law.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let us further discuss the awards and incentives given by the LGILG to LGUs. You see the mechanism of incentivizing, especially to low-income LGUs, help a lot in implementing local-based programs. Dahil ito ang mga era-independent LGUs ay kailangan ding dumipindi sa financial subsidy galing sa provincial government or sa kanilang congressman to augment sa kakulangan ng pundo ng mga munisipyo. Through this incentive mechanism, we recognize the efforts of the LGUs working hard for the welfare of their constituents. Recently, inilabas ng DILG ang listahan ng awardees for the SGLG or the Seal of Good Local Governance. In Sarangani, dalawa sa aming munisipyo ang na-awardan. My question is, how many provinces, cities, municipalities got the seal this year? Ano-ano po ang indicators para makuha ito?
Mr. President, here is the breakdown of 2017 SGLG awardees. 28 provinces, 61 cities, 359 municipalities, or a total of 448 local government units were given the seal of good local governments.
Can you say it again, Mr. President? I'm sorry.
28 provinces, 61 cities, 359 municipalities, so a total of 448 LGUs.
Paano niyo po ini-evaluate? No, wala bang palakasan dito?
Mr. President, according to the yes, and I concur, no, that walang palakasan po rito, and it's quite hard because of the criteria that they have set that has to be met for you to be an awardee of the Seal of Good Local Governments. In fact, to my knowledge, even the city of San Juan, which is already known for excellence, no, in governance, has been having a hard time also, no, to be able to be given as the Seal of Good to be given the Seal of Good Local Governance. So it's not really easy to be given this SGLG award. That I know for a fact because every year in our own city that they really work hard for this. No? Hindi po ito madali. Kumbaga, hindi po ito palakasan. So that I can attest.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to make sure because two municipalities of my province got the award. So
just to give you an example, no, the criteria for the gold SGHR good housekeeping or SC, parang siguro is the same, no? Above benchmark of LGPMS performance, presence of internal audit office, functionality of LDC, LSB, LHP, and POC, and joint ventures or cooperative arrangement with the people's organization and NGOs, and the delivery of basic services, capability building, livelihood projects, agri and other socio-economic development endeavors. So, and likewise, IP representation in local Sangguniang and other local policy making body as embodied in the ILG circular for the silver and bronze categories. Well, it's almost the same probably, Mr. President.
I just want to know, Mr. President, napag-alaman ko that the awardees of this sale are eligible to access the Performance Challenge Fund. Tama po ba na may 1 billion na inilaan para dito?
That's correct, Mr. President. So the performance challenge is about 1 billion. LGUs meeting performance standards and provided with funds vital to implement development projects needed by their constituents. If I may describe, Mr. President, the program incentivizes qualified LGUs excelling in local governance, performance in a form of incentive fund to finance high-impact local development projects identified in LGUs, annual investment program, or local development investment program, which are consistent with the national goals and priorities.
So meaning you distribute this fund through the local projects. Tama po ba?
Mr. President, this will be released to the winners of those who will be given, the LGUs who will be given the seal of good local governance.
Paano niyo po din-distribute? Cash o project through project or?
Cash po, Mr. President.
Oh. Cash pala. Thank you, Mr. President. Pero yung cash na yan, may guideline.
Well, definitely there is, Mr. President. The utilization, there's a utilization guideline because it will be audited as well, Mr. President.
Can you enlighten us what are those kind of use na pwede lang gamitin? Ano yung mga pwedeng gamitin? Pwede ba sa scholar? Scholar. Okay.
Mr. President, as long as the project will be under the AIP or the annual investment plan of the local government units, then that will be allowed by the utilization of the fund will be allowed as long as it's under the annual investment plan of the local government unit. Kung nasa programa pa yan, sa taon, any program under the AIP will be allowed.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask this question, Mr. President, because it's really important to know, the people will know, because there's a problem. I'm asking this because this has been raised in the 2016 COA audit report. Almost $500 million ang hindi na kumpleto ng mga proyekto under this fund. So, I will be asking the DLG na ayusin ang paggamit ng pag-implement nito. Kasi may mga hindi kumpleto yung pag-implement ayon sa COA audit 2016.
Probably, Mr. President, according to Mr. Panadero, is that probably the COA report was not updated, no? But in the latest report, that the COA that would been addressed already.
This is 2016 COA report, Mr. President.
And likewise, Mr. President, all the projects that will be funded will be the portal of the DILG, so everybody can see where the money was used, how it was utilized.
Thank you, Mr. President. At least aware na ngayon kung aware na sila paano nila gastusin yung pera na mapanalunan ng bawat probinsya, munisipyo o cities. Let us discuss the potable water supply project na binigyan ng 1.4 billion na pundo to subsidize waterless municipalities and barangays. You know, access to potable water is still difficult in many areas in our province. That's why I'm disheartened reading the CUA 2016 audit report showing millions of unutilized fund. Sabi pa ni CUA, there is a slow project implementation as indicated by the low physical delivery rate of 47.44%, while there is a high financial delivery rate of 91.50%. What are the challenges encountered? May I know, Mr. President?
Mr. President, the water project has quite a long gestation. No? It just doesn't meet. It cannot be completed, no, in the cutoff. So it takes about 18 months or longer, but it is being implemented, and the projects are somehow they are able to catch up. Medyo matagal lang po, but they are able to catch up. Matagal lang talagang gawin pag water projects, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. May I know, Mr. President, how many LGUs, how many recipients for this project?
As of the moment, Mr. President, there are about 332 waterless municipalities. And as of the moment,
I'm sorry, Mr. President, how many?
332 waterless municipalities.
What is the, may I know, Mr. President, what is the completion rate?
Right now, Mr. President, for 2016, just to give you an idea, ongoing construction is 178. Completed in 2016, it was 59. But for 2017, this is not yet, since it's still ongoing, the records are not yet updated. No? But to give you an example, the total implementation of the project, since it was started in 2012, there's about 816 completed and 452 are ongoing. Total po. That's about 452 ongoing projects, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sa programa ng sa mga barangay naman po tayo. Programa sa mga barangay, alam naman natin na that the barangay is the basic political unit. Sila yung talagang grassroots ng ating gobyerno. In fact, yung punong barangay o kapitan is the only local officials vested with both executive and legislative power in the barangay level.
Sila yung may power na executive and legislative. Now, I would like to ask from the DILG if we have programs in capacitating them, especially the newly elected officials doon sa mga pinakamahihirap na barangay. May we know, ano na po yung interventions na ginawa natin, especially on knowledge management.
Mr. President, there's a program called the Barangay Newly Elected Officials Program. No? So every time there's a new set of barangay officials, the DILG conducts training, familiarization and training, basic training for the newly elected barangay officials. Every time, every election, so every time there's a new set of officials, it is standard that the DILG would conduct orientation and training for the newly elected barangay officials.
What are those interventions, Mr. President? May I know? Ano yung mga ginawa yung training para sa ating mga...
Mr. President, the standard programs are planning, leadership training, and likewise financial management for barangay officials.
Thank you, Mr. President. Natanong ko na po ito because in my province in Sarangani, we have this program capacitating all barangay officials in local legislative. This was the initiative of my wife, Jinky, when she was the vice governor. She wanted to help craft a barangay legislative manual to guide the barangay officials in conducting legislative sessions. May iba po kasi na instead of session, technically meeting lang ang ginagawa. Challenge din even in crafting simple resolutions, session is very important in the barangay as they discuss the affairs and welfare of the people and for them to access programs and projects sa higher local authorities. So I can only speak of my province pero maaari ring problema ito sa mga ibang LGUs. My question is, Mr. President, may programa ba ang DILG ng capacitating the Sangguniang Barangay in local legislation and the proper conduct of sessions? May plano po ba ang ahinsya to equip LGUs lalo na po ang mga barangay, ang mga barangay?
Mr. President, there is, no? There's barangay legislation, but unfortunately, the DILG cannot cover all because there are about 42,000 barangays all over the country. So it's almost physically impossible for the DILG officials to conduct for all the barangays. But there is a barangay legislation that is being conducted for the newly elected barangay officials.
But there's a program conducted by the DILG. Am I right, Mr. President?
Yes, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think, Mr. President, the majority leader review my questions and natanong na itong iba. So, hindi ko na itatanong itong iba dahil natanong na kanina. So, siguro, Mr. President, hanggang dito na lang and then I move to support, to approve the budget of DILG, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Pacquiao. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, there are no more interpellations, so I move to close the interpellation and consider the budget of the Department of Interior and Local Government and its attached agencies as deemed submitted for the body's consideration.
Any objection? Hearing none.
Mr. President, may we now may have a 1-minute suspension, Mr. President, and call on the budgets of the Film Development Council, the Presidential Commission for Urban Poor, Dangerous Drugs Board,